the first gut related issue that you faced.
Mm-hmm.
These gut related issues have become extremely common in India,
Yeah.
and people blame everyone from big pharma to processed food companies to even the British who ruled over us.
Okay,
Even
yeah.
they blamed
Why
for
not? Yeah.
it that they brought wheat to our country, and we're traditionally a millet eating culture.
Okay.
So it messed with our biome.
Yeah.
I'm in media. Almost every single woman that I know who works alongside me in media, who's an on-screen personality, has either gone vegan and or gone completely gluten-free. And for sure, every guy and every girl who's on screen has gone off dairy. Effectively, in my eyes, this is all about the gut.
Yep.
Right?
Agreed.
Now, from a media perspective, it's about like skin quality, primarily.
Yeah.
A little bit about like bloating,
Sure.
but it's primarily about skin quality.
Yeah.
You said that you were able to kind of fix your gut. You
Mhm.
probably had one of the worst cases of what I assume is a leaky gut.
Worst case I knew of, and probably leaky gut was just part of it.
Okay. Where do we even begin this conversation about the gut? Because, again, even 5 years ago, gut health was barely spoken about.
Yeah.
And now it's probably one of the most popular topics when it comes to long-term health.
Yeah.
And I think too many people have faced gut-related problems. I don't even know where to begin this topic.
Yeah.
So why don't we kind of start with the building blocks in terms of what does your gut do?
Yeah.
Then you can talk about your story and what you learned through your experience of fixing it.
Sure. So there are more bacterial cells in your body than human cells. Okay. In a sense, you are a donut, right? There's a hole here, there's a hole on the other end, and somewhere in the middle, there's this winding stretch that's filled with bacteria. And every single thing that you're made of went through that. And, you're almost growing out of this decaying mass inside your gut, right? So in a sense, it seems this bacteria, it's crazy. We can tell there's a specific bacteria that makes you crave chocolate. And we can see that in people who crave chocolate, they have a higher amount of this bacteria. So this bacteria is not only physically making you, it's mentally making you, it's emotionally making you. And the health of the bacteria in your gut, you're downstream of that. And so a lot of things happen. One, you might, it's a war down there, okay? The bacteria are sort of fighting each other, and the good bacteria, you want to have the good bacteria outweigh the bad bacteria, right? People take a bunch of antibiotics. I think a lot of my problem had probably a good amount to do with having too much antibiotics as a kid. It kills the good bacteria as the bacteria grows back. We don't know the proportions in which they're coming back in, and so you want to feed the good stuff, you want to get rid of the bad stuff. And it turns out, I think at least, that, when I started doing macrobiotics is obsessed with gut bacteria, absolutely obsessed with it. So miso, fermented foods, all these things. I was having miso 2-3 times a day. The miso that you get at a sushi restaurant is usually pasteurized. That's not really good for you because they kill the bacteria. Right? You want unpasteurized miso, for example. That's going to constantly be putting this good bacteria into your gut, right? And different people have different opinions on this thing. So it seems to be that the good bacteria in your gut, for example, it feeds off of fiber. Now, you tell one person, they're like, oh, fiber's bad for you. You get another person that says fiber's good for you. I think a lot of times, so in macrobiotics is basically also a vegan diet. I'm not vegan today, but in macrobiotics, there's sort of this healing diet that they talk about, right? And it's basically vegan. And I think a lot of times when people have these gut issues, they say, for example, I'm going to go vegan, I'm going to go gluten-free, I'm going to go carnivore, right? Carnivore is quite popular now. It's all I eat is steak. And people will see a bunch of health issues improve when they do these things. But I think the reason that's happening is because they're basically engaging in elimination diet. They're taking out all the processed foods, okay? They're simplifying their diet to something. I mean, steak is, again, just a bunch of amino acids. You're made entirely out of amino acids and proteins. So you put some healthy amino acids in you, your body will make you, and you're not putting all these processed garbage food inside you. So by eating this elimination diet, you see a bunch of improvements. So that's why somebody will be like, oh, I stopped eating gluten. It's like, yeah, you just stopped eating a bunch of processed garbage and you started eating real food, you know? Because if you were trying to avoid the gluten, you had to eat real food instead of just bread out of the grocery store, right? So I think a lot of people see improvements because of elimination. And then some of that good bacteria can start coming back. And the way to think about the bacteria is it's like a nano factory. It's breaking things down. But also the serotonin that you have in your brain was created by the bacteria in your gut. So you need to have bacteria that creates that serotonin. And this stuff is really complex. We don't understand it that well yet. There's tests you can take, for example, these biome tests. I don't know that they do much. It's tough to really know what to do with the information, Sure, we know that there's this one bacteria that makes you crave chocolate, but there's also 10,000 other bacteria in you. We don't have our heads wrapped around it. So I think for people with gut issues, usually simplifying your diet helps, right? And eating a lot of good fermented foods, but like real fermented foods, like unpasteurized miso, sauerkraut. You can make I used to make my own pickles at home every day. Those things will help because they will basically reseed your gut.
How long did you take to fix your gut?
Probably about 2 solid years.
Really?
Yeah.
And you were vegan for those 2 years?
Yeah, I was mostly vegan for almost 7 years. With a little bit of meat here and there, but no dairy. I couldn't eat dairy. If I drank milk, I would get sick. Now I can eat it.
Really?
Yeah. I fixed my lactose intolerance.
That's my conjecture. I feel like when you go through a gut fixing diet, you're able to fix a lot of these gluten-free,
oh yeah, I think so too.
Situations.
To me, health is strength. You should be able to eat anything without it bothering you.
We go to the gym to lift weights for our muscles. I think you need to put yourself through some kind of a rigorous dietary regime to exercise your gut.
That's why it's difficult, right? It takes some serious, for me, I was cooking food from scratch every day. Most people aren't even cooking once a day. I'm cooking 2 or 3 meals a day for 7 years. I lived that way. It's like too much work for most people. But everywhere I go, I'm just like, if there's some fermented foods, I'm eating the fermented foods. It kind of influences everything I do, but it's just a lot of work. I think that's the main issue. People just want to take a pill and fix their problems, right? They don't want to start having to cook food from scratch every day. But I'm not sure that there's any way around it, to be honest.
Gotcha.
That's why family and community is so important, because these things actually become much easier if you're doing them with other people. So for me, when I first started studying macrobiotics, I was living with 2 or 3 friends and we all did it together. And we're all helping each other cook, right? And we're eating together. And so they didn't have the same problems that I did, but we did it all together. And so it was much easier, right? And so when you're just living by yourself, it's tough to cook for one, but there's more and more options. It's funny because people talk about probiotics a lot now, but they didn't used to. We're learning that these are important.
I can't imagine you went through this in 2001.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 20-something years ago.
That's crazy, man. Hey, if you enjoyed today's clip, make sure you check out all the other clips we've uploaded on this channel. You'll find a clip related to almost every single topic as long as you're willing to search for it.